Did you know that by the age of just 5, over 90% of child's brain is already developed? I'm Jan, I'm a childhood educator with years of hands-on experience in research and daily practice with kids. In this video we will uncover what really shapes a child's brain, from food and sleep to play and emotional connection. Whether you are a parent, grandparent or teacher, you will discover simple science-backed strategies that can literally change the way a child learns, feels, and grows for life. Part number 1. The miracle of developing brain. The human brain is the most fascinating organ we know. It governs thoughts, feelings, memory, learning, and relationships. And yet, for all its complexity, the brain begins its most important work long before most people realize it. From the very first days of life, the brain is busy building the foundation that will carry a child for the rest of their journey. Research shows that by the age of 5, more than 90% of a child's brain growth has already taken place. That means the early years are not just a warm-up for real life later on, they are a real life. What happens during this time will shape who a child becomes in school, in relationships, and in society. I often compare this process to building a house. No one would start with the windows of the roof. The foundation must come first, and it must be solid. If the foundation is shaky, the house will always struggle. If it is strong, the house can rise tall, stable, and resilient. The same is true for children. Their early years form the foundation. Nutrition, sleep, play, and emotional connection. These are the cement, the beams, and the bricks. They provide the structure for everything that comes later. School success, emotional balance, resilience, and even long-term health. This is why child brain development is not an abstract scientific subject. It is deeply practical. It is about the everyday choices parents, caregivers, and educators make. The food offered at the table, the stories told at bedtime, the way tears are conformed, the way laughter is shared. The speed of early growth. One of the most astonishing facts about the developing brain is its speed. In the first years of life, the brain forms more than 1 million new neural connections every second. These connections, called synapses, are how the brain communicates with itself. They allow signals to pass from one neuron to another, building the circuits that handle everything from basic motor skills to complex emotional regulation. Picture a baby hearing their caregivers sing. Every note, every repetition strengthens pathways for language and auditory processing. Or picture a toddler stacking blocks. Every trial, every wobble strengthens circuits for problem solving, coordination, and persistence. Unlike adults' brain, which change more slowly, children's brains are like soft clay, flexible, open, and ready to be shaped. This flexibility is a gift, but also a responsibility. Positive experiences create strong circuits that last a lifetime. Negative experiences, neglect, stress, poor nutrition can leave deep marks. Why early matters. When people talk about education, they often think of schools, teachers, and classrooms. But by the time children enter school, much of their brain architecture is already set. Their vocabulary size, their ability to focus, and their strategic for handling stress. All of these are shaped years earlier. This doesn't mean later interventions don't work. The brain remains adaptable throughout life. But early years are like wet cement. They can be molded and shaped more easily. Once hardened, the structure is still adjustable, but it takes much more effort. This is why the first years matter so much. It's not about pushing children into early achievements, it's about giving them the right environment so their brains can unfold naturally, with strength and resilience. The foundation for resilience. Every child will face challenges. Life brings frustration, disappointment, and even adversity. What determines whether a child crumbles or adapts is not the absence of stress, but the strength of their foundation. A brain that has been nourished with love, responsive care, proper nutrition, and regular rest is better prepared to handle difficulties. Stressful experiences still happen, but the brain has a buffer. Neural circuits for resilience have been built. A shaky foundation, on the other hand, leaves a child more vulnerable. Even small stresses can feel overwhelming if its brain lacks the wiring to manage them. Think of a storm hitting two different houses. Both face the same wind and rain. The difference is in the foundation. One stands tall, the other shakes. Everyday choices, lifelong impact. What makes brain development so powerful and humbling is that it's shaped by ordinary, everyday choices. The brain is not built in laboratories or therapy rooms. It's built in kitchens, playgrounds, bedrooms, and daycare centers. A smile strengthens trust pathways. A bedtime story wires language and imagination. A healthy meal provides the raw materials for neurons. A consistent bedtime routine teaches emotional regulation. A game of catch builds coordination, focus, and teamwork. The ordinary is extraordinary. What seems small is actually building the architecture of the mind. Looking ahead. In the coming parts, we will dive deeper into the details of how this miracle unfolds, how brain connections are made and pruned, why neuroplasticity is the brain's greatest superpower, when the brain is considered fully developed, how nutrition, sleep, and play serve as its fuels, why love, storytelling, and play are not luxuries but biological necessities. Before we continue, it's important to pause. The miracle of the developing brain is not just a scientific curiosity. It's a call to action. It reminds us that the little things matter, that children don't need perfection, they need presence, that the best time to build strong foundations is not someday, it's today. Because in the end, the way we nurture a child's brain in the first years is the most powerful investment we will ever make in their future. Part number 2. How brain connections are built. The human brain is often compared to a network of roads. Some are small dirt paths, others are wide highways. The more a path is traveled, the stronger and faster it becomes. This image perfectly describes how neurons in the brain connect to each other and why early experiences matter so much. At birth, a baby already carries about 100 billion neurons. But these neurons are like isolated buildings in a city. Without roads to link them, they cannot communicate. What transforms this collection of neurons into a living, thinking, learning brain are the synapses, the connections between neurons. The synapse explosion. In the first years of life, synapse formation explosive. Scientists estimated that the brain forms more than 1 million new neural connections every second during early childhood. This rate is unmatched at any other point in life. These connections form in response to experiences. Every sound a baby hears, every touch they feel, every sight they see, and every interaction they have with caregivers sparks new wiring. When a mother sings to her baby, circuits for language and auditory processing strengthen. When a toddler plays peek-a-boo, Circuits for social interaction and memory are reinforced. This is why we say brains are built, not born. Genetics provide the blueprint, but experiences build the structure. Synaptic pruning, use it or lose it. If synapse growth is one side of the coin, synaptic pruning is the other. The brain does not keep every connection it makes. Instead, it keeps the strong, frequently used ones and removes the weak, unused ones. This pruning makes the brain more efficient. It's like clearing overgrown paths in a forest to leave behind the strongest, most useful trails. For example, a child exposed to rich language environments keeps strong language circuits. A child rarely spoken to may lose those same circuits over time. This is not punishment, it's efficiency. The brain invests in what seems most important based on input, which is why consistent, repeated, and meaningful interaction in early life is so critical. Critical and sensitive periods. Another key concept is critical periods, windows of time when the brain is especially ready to learn certain skills. Language is the most well-known example. Children exposed to multiple languages early can learn them effortlessly. But if exposure comes much later, learning is still possible but harder. Vision works the same way. If a baby's eyes do not receive normal visual input in early months, the circuits for sight may never fully develop. Closely related are sensitive periods, broader windows when the brain is particularly responsive to experiences. Social skills, emotional regulation, and musical ability all have sensitive periods when input shapes outcomes most powerfully. This doesn't mean opportunities vanish after childhood, but it does mean early experiences carry extra weight. Experience shapes architecture. Neuroscientists describe brain development as experience dependent. It means the brain is built not in isolation, but through continuous interaction with the environment. Consider two children. One grows up in a home filled with conversation, books, and nurturing care. The other spends hours alone with little stimulation. Both are born with similar potential, but their brain architecture will look very differently by the time they enter school. The first child's circuits for language, attention, and emotional regulation will be stronger. The second may show delays in vocabulary, focus, and social connection. This is not destiny, but is wiring, and wiring shapes behavior, learning, and opportunities. Everyday moments as brain builders. The beautiful part is that brain building doesn't require expensive toys or specialized programs. The most powerful inputs are simple everyday moments. When a caregiver smiles and responds to a baby's coo, synapses for communication are built. When a toddler helps stir pancake batter, circuits for motor skills and sequencing grow. When a child listens to a bedtime story, circuits for imagination, language, and empathy strengthen. Each moment may feel ordinary, but in the brain it is extraordinary. The double-edged sword of plasticity. Because the brain is too responsive, experience can shape in both positive and negative ways. A child consistently exposed to love and conversation builds pathways for trust and communication. A child exposed to neglect or chronic stress wires circuits for survival instead of growth. This explains why some children thrive even in challenging circumstances, because they had enough positive experience to buffer the negative ones. And why others struggle despite potential, because the foundation they received was fragile. The balance between genes and environment. It's tempting to ask, is the brain development determined by genetics or by environment? The answer is both. Genes provide the initial blueprint. They decide how neurons form, where circuits may grow, and the basic timeline of development. But environment provides the construction crew. Without the right experience, the blueprint cannot be fully realized. This interaction is why two children with similar genetic potential can end up with very different outcomes, depending on the richness or poverty of their early experiences. Why this knowledge matters. Understanding how brain connections are built is not just fascinating science, it's a roadmap for action. It tells us that early years matter most. It tells us that repetition and consistency build stronger circuits. It tells us that love, language, and play are as biological essential as food and water. It tells us that negative influences, neglect, stress, poor nutrition can weaken or even erase circuits. And most importantly, it tells us that we have power. Every caregiver interaction is a chance to strengthen a child's brain. Every word spoken, every hug given, every story told leaves a trace. Looking ahead, now that we understand that the basic of how our brain connections are built, the next step is to look at the brain's capacity to change. This is where the concept of neuroplasticity comes in. It explains why experiences can rewire circuits, why recovery is possible, and why every small step matters. In part 3, we will explore neuroplasticity, the brain's superpower, and see how children's brains are both remarkably fragile and remarkably strong. Part number 3, neuroplasticity, the brain's superpower. If there is one concept that changes everything, we know that the child development, it is neuroplasticity. This word may sound technical, but its meaning is simple. The brain has the ability to change its structure and function in response to experience. Unlike a computer, which is fixed once programmed, the human brain is dynamic. It learns, adapts, and rewires itself. And this ability is never greater than in childhood. What is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's capacity to form new neural connections, strengthens existing ones, and even reorganize entire circuits when needed. Every time a child learns a new skill, whether it's stacking blocks, tying shoelaces, or singing a song, their brain physically changes. New synapses grow, old ones are pruned, and pathways become more efficient. Think of it like exercising a muscle. The more a skill is practiced, the stronger the neural circuit becomes. This is why children who hear stories every night develop larger vocabularies, and why children who practice sports or music show advanced motor coordination and memory. Sensitive periods, windows of opportunity. While the brain can adapt at any age, childhood is unique because of sensitive periods. Times when the brain is especially primed for certain kinds of learning. Language. Babies can distinguish every sound of every language in the world. But by the end of the first year, their brain specializes in the sounds they hear most often. If exposed early, they can grow up bilingual with ease. Later, it's still possible, but requires much more effort. Vision. If a child's eyes don't receive clear input in the first month of life, the visual cortex may not fully develop, even if the eyes themselves are healthy. Emotional regulation. Secure attachment in infancy wires circuits for trust and resilience. Without it, children may face greater challenges managing stress later on. These windows don't mean learning ends. Adults can learn languages, play instruments, and build emotional skills. But the process is easier and more natural when the brain is in its sensitive period. The double nature of plasticity. Neuroplasticity is a gift, but also a risk. Because the brain is so adaptable, it wires itself based on what it experiences most. A child surrounded by conversation and books strengthens pathways for language and critical thinking. A child exposed to neglect or chronic stress wires pathways for hypervigilance and survival instead. Plasticity makes children both incredibly strong and incredibly vulnerable. The same openness that allows for rapid learning also means that negative experiences can leave deep imprints. This explains why trauma in early life can have a long-lasting effects. But it also explains why healing and recovery are possible when children receive nurturing relationships and supportive environments. Brains are built through repetition. Neuroplasticity doesn't work instantly, it works through repetition. Each time a child practices a skill or experiences an interaction, the pathway becomes a little stronger. A child learning to walk falls hundreds of times. Every attempt strengthens the motor circuits. A child learning to read hears thousands of words before letters and sounds click together. A child learning empathy experiences countless moments of comfort and care before the skill becomes internalized. This is why consistent routines, repeated positive interactions, and ongoing practice matter so much. One moment alone rarely changes a brain, but thousands of small moments do. Resilience and recovery. One of the most hopeful findings in neuroscience is that neuroplasticity makes recovery possible. Children who grow up in difficult circumstances are not doomed. With the right support, stable relationship, safe environments, therapy, and consistent care, their brains can rewire. Circuits that were underdeveloped can strengthen, and pathways distorted by stress can adapt. For example, research shows that children adopted from neglectful environments can make remarkable developmental gains once they are in nurturing families. Their brains respond to the new environment, building what was missing before. This doesn't mean change is easy or instant, but it does mean that no brain is ever finished, in the sense of being beyond growth. Lifelong plasticity. Also, childhood is the peak of neuroplasticity. The ability never disappears. Adults can still learn new skills, languages, and even recover functions after brain injury. This has profound implications. It means parenting and caregiving matters at every stage, not just infancy. It means interventions can work later in life, though they may require more effort. It means the story of a child's development is never completely written. Brains remain dynamic, adaptable, and capable of growth throughout life. Why caregivers hold the key. Neuroplasticity is not an abstract concept, it's something parents and caregivers shape every single day. When they read stories, they are wiring language and imagination circuits. When they comfort tears, they are wiring emotional regulation pathways. When they provide safe routines, they are wiring trust and predictability. When they encourage exploration, they are wiring curiosity and problem solving. The responsibility is enormous, but so is the power. Every hug, every word, every shared love is a physical investment in the architecture of a child's brain. The bigger picture. Understanding neuroplasticity changes how we view children. It reminds us that no child is stuck in their abilities. Skills are not fixed, they are built. Mistakes are not failures, they are practice. Adversity is not destiny, recovery is possible. This perspective shifts the focus from labeling children to empowering them. Instead of saying, she's not good at math, we can say, her brain hasn't built those circuits yet. Instead of saying, he can't focus, we can say, his brain needs practice and support. Looking ahead. In this part, we explored neuroplasticity, the brain's superpower. We saw that it is the strongest in early years, shaped by repetition and open to both positive and negative influences. Most importantly, we saw that it offers hope. Children can grow, adapt, and recover. In part 4, we will ask the big question: when is the brain fully developed? We will explore the timeline from infancy through adolescence and into young adulthood, showing why patience, guidance, and realistic expectations are essential for every stage. Part 4. When is the brain fully developed? One of the most common questions parents and educators ask is, when will my child's brain finally be developed? It's an understandable question. After all, we tend to think of development as a process that reaches a clear finish line. Babies learn to walk, children learn to talk, teenagers finish school, and then surely the brain must be done. The truth is more surprising. The brain develops in stages, and it is not considered fully mature until the mid-20s. While that may sound late, it explains a great deal about children's and teenagers' behavior and why patience and guidance are so important. The early explosion. The first stage is the most dramatic. From birth to around age 5, the brain undergoes a period of explosive growth. Synapses are created at lightning speed, more than 1 million per second. This is when the foundations for language, motor skills, social bonds, and emotional regulation are laid. By the time a child reaches kindergarten, their brain has already reached about 90% of its adult size. But size is not the same as maturity. The circuits are there, but they are still raw and unrefined. Middle childhood, refinement and strengthening. Between the ages of 6 and 12, brain development is less about adding new circuits and more about refining existing ones. Synaptic pruning takes center stage. The brain keeps what is used often and trims away the rest. This stage is sometimes described as the brain's efficiency drive. Circuits for reading, memory, and problem solving become sharper through repetition. Children learn to control impulses better, though regulation is still fragile. Motor skills also refine. A child who once struggled to catch a ball can now join a soccer team. A child who once scribbled can now write paragraphs. These skills emerge not because the brain grew bigger, but because the wiring became faster and more efficient. Adolescence remodeling the brain. Adolescence is perhaps the most misunderstood stage of brain development. From the outside, teenagers often look like adults. They are taller, stronger, and more independent. But inside, their brains are still under construction. During adolescence, the brain undergoes a process of remodeling. The limbic system, responsibility for emotions and rewards, matures early. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, decision-making, and self-control, matures late. This mismatch explains why teenagers sometimes make risky choices. Their emotional accelerator is strong, but their rational brakes are still developing. Neuroscientists sometimes say teenagers are like cars with powerful engines and weak brakes. That's not an insult, it's biology. It also explains why supportive guidance, boundaries, and patience are so important during adolescence. Young adulthood, final maturation. The final stage of brain development happens between the ages of 18 and 25. This is when the prefrontal cortex finally reaches maturity. This area of the brain is essential for planning and goal setting, impulse control, long-term decision-making, understanding consequences. Only in the mid-20s do most people reach full cognitive maturity. This doesn't mean learning stops, it means the brain circuits are finally balanced and fully functional. Why this timeline matters. Understanding this timeline has profound implications for how we raise and educate children. Toddlers are not bad when they throw tantrums, their regulation circuits simply aren't built yet. Children need repetition and consistency because their brains are still refining pathways. Teenagers are not reckless because they don't care. Their reward systems are just maturing faster than their control system. Young adults still benefit from guidance and support because their decision-making circuits are only just reaching maturity. This knowledge allows us to shift from judgment to empathy. Instead of asking, "Why is my child like this?" we can ask, "What stage of brain development are they in and how can I support them?" Brain growth versus brain maturity. It's also important to distinguish between brain size and brain maturity. By age 10, the brain has nearly reached its adult volume. But maturity is not about size, it's about connections, efficiency, and balance. Think of a smartphone. Two devices may look identical on the outside, but if one runs an outdated operating system, it won't function as a smoothly. The developing brain is similar. Children and teens may look mature physically, but their operating system is still being updated. Patience, guidance, and realistic expectations. When we understand that the brain is still developing into the 20s, it changes how we set expectations. We can be more patient with toddlers learning self-control. We can be more consistent with children refining their skills. We can be more supportive of teenagers navigating intense emotions. We can be more understanding of young adults still learning to balance freedom with responsibility. This doesn't mean lowering standards, it means aligning expectations with biology. A tree cannot be rushed to grow faster, but with the right soil, sunlight, and care, it grows strong in its own time. The role of experience. Even though the timeline of brain development is universal, the quality of experiences shapes how well each stage unfolds. Secure attachment strengthens emotional circuits, rich language environments build vocabulary and literacy circuits, balanced routines support self-regulation, positive peer interactions develop social circuits. In other words, while the brain has a neutral clock, environment is what tells it how to grow. Looking ahead. By now we see the brain development is not finished in childhood or even in adolescence. It continues well into early adulthood. Its knowledge frees us from unrealistic expectations and encourages us to guide children with patience and at each stage. In part 5, we will dive into the first of the biological foundations in detail: nutrition and brain foods. We will see why omega-3s, vitamins, and whole foods are not just healthy choices, but literal building blocks of intelligence and resilience. Part number 5. Nutrition and brain foods. We often say, "you are what you eat." For children, this phrase is more literal than we imagine. The brain is made of nutrients. Every cell, every connection, every chemical messenger that carries thoughts and emotions is built from the food children consume. When nutrition is strong, the brain has the raw materials to grow, learn, and regulate emotions. When nutrition is poor, the brain struggles to reach its full potential. In today's world, we eat fast food, sugar, and processed snacks dominate children's diets. Understanding the link between food and brain development has never been more urgent. The brain's need for fuel. The brain, also only 2% of body weight, consumes up to 20% of the body's energy. This means it is constantly hungry for fuel. A steady supply of glucose, fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals is essential for memory, attention, and learning. Unlike adults, children's brains are in a state of rapid growth. Neurons are firing at high speed, circuits are forming, and myelin, the insulation around brain cells, is still being built. This requires specific nutrients in far greater amounts than many children receive today. Omega-3 fatty acids, the brain's building blocks. If there is one nutrient that deserves special attention, it is omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA. DHA makes up a major part of the brain's cell membranes. It improves communication between neurons. It has been linked to higher IQ and better cognitive performance in children. Studies show that children who regularly consume omega-3s perform better in reading, memory, and behavior regulation. Deficiency, on the other hand, is associated with attention problems and mood difficulties. Best sources of omega-3s: fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel. Plant sources like flax seeds, chia seeds, and walnuts. Iron, oxygen for the brain. Iron deficiency is one of the most common nutritional problems worldwide, and one of the most damaging for brain development. Iron is essential for carrying oxygen in the blood. Without it, the brain cannot function efficiently. Low iron in childhood is linked to slower cognitive development. It can affect attention, memory, and problem solving. Even after correction, some effects may remain long-term. Best resources: lean red meat, beans, lentils, spinach, fortified cereals. Zinc, the memory mineral. Zinc plays a key role in neurotransmitter function and brain signaling. Deficiency can lead to attention problems, poor memory, and difficulties with reasoning. Best sources: seeds, nuts, legumes, whole grains. Choline and folate, builders of memory. Choline is a lesser known nutrient but vital for brain cell membranes and a neurotransmitter acetylcholine, which is central for memory and learning. Folate is equally critical, especially during pregnancy, to support neural tube development. Best sources: eggs, beans, leafy greens. Vitamin D, the mood protector. Vitamin D is sometimes called the sunshine vitamin. It plays a role in brain development, mood regulation, and immune function. Deficiency is linked to development delays and higher risks of mood disorders. Best sources: sunlight, fortified dairy, fatty fish, supplements. The danger of sugar and processed food. Modern diets are increasingly dominated by sugary snacks, sodas, and ultra-processed foods. These foods provide calories but few nutrients. Excess sugar has been linked to attention problems and mood swings. Highly processed foods often replace nutrient-rich options, leading to deficiencies. Diets high in processed foods are associated with poorer academic performance. Over the last 25 years, children's diets have shifted dramatically towards convenience food. This has real consequences. More children struggle with focus, impulse control, and cognitive performance, not just because of screens or stress, but because their brains are literally underfueled. Everyday brain foods. The good news is that supporting brain development doesn't require expensive supplements or exotic diets. Simple, consistent food choices make the difference. Breakfast with protein, eggs, yogurt, nuts, stabilizes energy and attention. 2 servings of a fish per week, or plant-based omega-3 supports memory. Colorful vegetables and fruits provide antioxidants that protect brain cells. Whole grains fuels the brain with steady energy. Plenty of water keeps the brain hydrated and alert. Even small changes, swapping sugary drinks for water, replacing chips with fruits, involving children in cooking, add up over time. Nutrition and emotional health. Food doesn't just affect cognition, it also shapes emotions. Studies link balanced diets with lower risks of anxiety and depression in children. Omega-3s, zinc, and vitamin D all play roles in stabilizing mood and reducing irritability. This connection between nutrition and emotions reminds us that mental health is not separate from physical health. A child who eats poorly may not only struggle with grades, but also with self-esteem and relationships. Challenge for modern families. Of course, it's easy to say feed your child well, but reality is often harder. Many parents are pressed for time. Healthy food is sometimes more expensive or less accessible. Marketing from fast food and snack companies is constant. This is why education and community support matter. Parents need not only knowledge but also practical strategies. Preparing simple meals in advance. Choosing affordable but nutrient-dense staples, beans, eggs, frozen vegetables. Making small sustainable changes rather than overwhelming overhauls. The goal is progress, not perfection. Looking ahead, nutrition is not just fuel, it is construction material for the brain. Omega-3s, iron, zinc, choline, vitamin D, these are not optional extras. They are the bricks and motor of intelligence, attention, and emotional stability. At the same time, sugar and processed foods can undermine these foundations. What we feed children today is what we build into their brains for tomorrow. In part 6, we will explore another foundation: sleep and routines. Just as food provides the raw materials, sleep is the reset button that allows the brain to grow, repair, and to consolidate everything learned during the day. Part number 6, sleep and routines. If nutrition provides the raw materials for the brain, then sleep is the construction crew. Without it, the work cannot be completed. For children, sleep is not just a time of rest, it is a time of active growth and repair. During those quiet hours, the brain organizes memories, balances emotions, and releases hormones that fuel physical and mental development. And yet, in our modern world, children's sleep is often the first thing that's sacrificed. Screens, busy schedules, and irregular routines cut into the hours children need most. The result is not only tired mornings, but also lasting effects on learning, behavior, and emotional health. Why is sleep essential for the brain? The brain is never more active than during sleep. Researchers describe sleep as a period when the brain cleans itself, prepares for the next day. During deep sleep, memories are consolidated. New skills and knowledge from the day are transferred into long-term storage. Neural connections are strengthened. Circuits become more efficient, improving problem solving and attention. Growth hormones are released. These hormones are essential for both body and brain development. Emotional regulation circuits reset. Sleep helps children manage frustration, stress, and fear more effectively. Without enough sleep, children struggle to focus, learn, and regulate emotions. How much sleep do children need? Sleep requirements change with age. Experts recommend newborns 14 to 17 hours a day, infants 12 to 15 hours a day, toddlers 11 to 14 hours a day, preschoolers 10 to 13 hours a day, school-aged children 9 to 11 hours a day, and teenagers 8 to 10 hours a day. These numbers are not arbitrary, they reflect what the brain needs to consolidate learning and regulate itself. Children who consistently fall short may show irritability, hyperactivity, and learning difficulties that are sometimes mistaken for ADHD. The role of routines. One of the most powerful tools for ensuring healthy sleep is routine. Children thrive on predictability. When bedtime follows the same pattern each night, the brain begins to associate certain cues with rest. A typical bedtime routine might include dimming the lights, brushing teeth, reading a calming story, soft music or a lullaby, consistent sleep and wake times. These rituals signal to the brain that it's safe to relax. Over time, the routine itself becomes a sleep cue. What happens without routines? Children without consistent routines often struggle more with sleep onset and wakefulness. Bedtime becomes a battle. They may stay awake later, wake up more during the night, and feel groggy in the morning. Studies show that children with regular routines not only sleep better, but also perform better in school and show fewer behavioral problems. The predictability of routines reduces stress and helps regulate the body's natural rhythms. The impact of screens on sleep. One of the biggest challenges for modern families is screen time. Devices emit blue light, which suppresses the production of melatonin, the hormone that tells the brain it's time to sleep. Children exposed to screens before bedtime take longer to fall asleep. They get less deep sleep. Their overall sleep quality decreases. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends keeping screens out of bedrooms and avoiding them for at least 1 hour before bedtime. Sleep and emotional health. Sleep is deeply tied to emotional well-being. Children who sleep well are more resilient, better able to handle stress, and more likely to regulate their moods. Sleep deprivation, on the other hand, increases the risk of anxiety, depression, and irritability. In young children, lack of sleep is often expressed through tantrums, clinginess, or aggression. This shows that supporting sleep is not only about academic success, it's about protecting mental health. Daytime routines matter too. Bedtime is not only routine that matters, daily structure, regular meals, consistent activity, and predictable transitions help children feel secure. When children know what to expect, their stress levels drop. This allows the brain to focus on learning rather than survival. A stable rhythm throughout the day supports focus, cooperation, and emotional balance. The balance between flexibility and structure. While routines are powerful, they should not become rigid. Too much structure can create anxiety if children feel they have no room for spontaneity. The key is balance. Enough routine to provide safety, enough flexibility to allow creativity and independence. Children need both predictability and freedom. A bedtime routine might be consistent, but what looks is read or what song is sung can change each night. This combination builds both security and adaptability. Practical tips for parents. Supporting children's sleep and routines doesn't require perfection. Small, consistent steps make a huge difference. Establish a regular bedtime and stick to it, even on weekends. Create a calming sleep environment, dark, cool, and quiet. Remove screens from bedrooms. Build relaxing rituals, reading, soft music, or gentle talk. Encourage physical activity during the day so the body is ready to rest at night. Even shifting bedtime earlier by 30 minutes can significantly improve mood, attention, and learning. Why sleep is a form of love. It's easy to see feeding, hugging, and playing as acts of love. Sleep sometimes feel like the opposite, parents saying no when a child wants yes. But in truth, ensuring healthy sleep is one of the greatest gifts we can give. A well-rested child is happier, calmer, and more open to learning. Sleep provides the invisible foundation for all other aspects of development. It is love in action, expressed through structure, consistency, and care. Looking ahead. In this part, we've seen that sleep is not wasted time. It is active brain building. And routines are not restrictions, they are anchors of security. Together, they form one of the strongest foundations for healthy brain development. In part number 7, we will turn to another essential ingredient, movement and play. Just as sleep resets the brain, movement stimulates it. Through play, children not only build muscles, but also wire creativity, resilience, and social skills. Part number 7, movement and play. Children are not designed to sit still for long. Their bodies want to run, climb, dance, and explore. This is not just a burst of energy to be managed, it is the way the brain grows. Movements and play are biological necessities as critical to brain development as food and sleep. When children move, their brains light up. Blood flow increases, oxygen levels rise, and chemicals that support learning are released. When they play, they are not just having fun, they are building the circuits for focus, creativity, cooperation, and resilience. Why movement builds the brain? Physical activity stimulates the release of BDNF, a protein that helps neurons grow and connect. Higher levels of BDNF are linked to better memory, faster learning, and stronger problem-solving skills. Studies show that children who are more physically active perform better academically. They concentrate longer, regulate their emotions more effectively, and show greater persistence in challenges. Movement also strengthens their cerebellum, an area of the brain involved not only in motor coordination, but also in attention planning. Outdoor play. Nature as a teacher. When children play outside, the benefits multiply. Sunlight provides vitamin D, which supports both bone and brain health. Fresh air and natural settings lower cortisol, the stress hormone. Open spaces encourage creativity and problem solving in ways that structured indoor environments often cannot. Research shows that children who spend more time in nature have better concentration, improved mood, and even reduced symptoms of ADHD. Green environments calm the brain and help restore focus after mental effort. Free play versus structured play. Both free play and structured play have unique benefits for the brain. Free play allows children to direct their own activity. This builds imagination, independence, and the ability to make decisions. It's when children turn sticks into swords, cardboard boxes into castles, and playgrounds into kingdoms. These acts of imagination strengthen neural pathways for creativity. Structured play, like organized sports or guided games, builds discipline, teamwork, and goal settings. A soccer game teaches turn-taking, patience, and strategy. A puzzle game sharpens focus and persistence. A healthy childhood includes both. Free play sparks creativity. Structured play teaches cooperation and resilience. Play as emotional training. Play is not just about physical or cognitive growth, it also emotional training. When children engage in pretend play, they practice empathy by engaging what it feels like to be someone else. When they play group games, they learn to handle both winning and losing. Even rough and tumble play has benefits. Wrestling, chasing, and tickling when done safely help children regulate aggression, negotiate boundaries, and bond socially. Far from being wild, these interactions are practice for self-control. Movement, play, and social skills. Play is the natural classroom for social learning. Through games, children learn to share, weight their run, negotiate rules, and resolve conflicts. These social circuits are as vital as any academic skill. A group of children building a fort together is not only creating a structure, they are creating brains wired for teamwork. The risk of sedentary childhood. Modern life poses a challenge. Many children today spend more hours sitting in front of screens than moving their bodies. Long hours of sedentary behavior are linked to weaker motor skills, higher risks of obesity, and poorer attention spans. When play is replaced by passive entertainment, children lose opportunities to wire the circuits for resilience and creativity. The World Health Organization recommends that children get at least 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity per day. Yet many fall far short of this goal. Everyday movement matters. The good news is that the brain-building movement doesn't require expensive programs or equipment. Everyday activities are powerful. Dancing in the living room, walking or biking to school, playing tag in the park, helping in the kitchen, stirring, mixing, caring. Each movement strengthens both body and brain. What matters most is consistency. Movement and academic learning. Far from being a distraction, movement supports academic learning. Schools that integrate short physical activity breaks see improvements in attention and test performance. Exercise before studying has been shown to boost memory and comprehension. Physical activity even improves executive functions, the skills that allow children to plan, organize, and manage time. This makes play and movement not a break from learning, but a central part of it. The joy factor. Beyond science, there is something more fundamental. Movement and play bring joy. And joy itself is a brain builder. When children laugh, run, and explore, their brains release dopamine and endorphins. These chemicals not only make them feel good but also enhance learning by increasing motivation and attention. Joy is not a luxury, it's fuel for development. Practical tips for parents and educators. Supporting movement and play doesn't require elaborate plans. Small daily habits make a big difference. Schedule outdoor time every day. Rotate toys to spark imagination. Join children in play. Your presence multiplies the benefits. Provide both structured activities and free play opportunities. Limit screen time so it doesn't replace active play. Most importantly, protect playtime as seriously as study time. Both are essential for the brain. Why play is work. Adults sometimes dismiss play as just fun. But for children, play is their work. It is how they test limits, build skills, and prepare for the world. When a child is building with blocks, they are learning physics. When they are pretending to be superheroes, they are practicing courage and empathy. When they are running outside, they are building resilience. Play is not a break from development, it is development. Looking ahead. In this part, we explored how movement and play fuel the brain. From releasing brain-boosting proteins to training emotional and social skills, play is as essential as nutrition and sleep. In part 8, we will explore the emotional and social environment, how love, attachment, and responsive care create the fertile soil where all of these biological foundations can flourish. Part 8. Emotional and social environment. If nutrition, sleep, and play form the biological pillars of brain development, then love, language, and relationships are the emotional pillars. A child's brain does not grow in isolation, it is shaped moment by moment through interactions with the people who care for them. Scientists say relationships are the active ingredient of healthy brain development. This means that food, sleep, and exercise give the brain its fuel, but love, attachment, and connection give it direction. Without them, the foundation is incomplete. The power of love and attachment. From the first day of life, babies are wired to seek connection. When caregivers respond consistently with warmth, holding, comforting, smiling, the child develops secure attachment. Securely attached children show stronger emotional regulation, resilience, and empathy. Their brains are less flooded with stress hormones and more primed for learning. Insecure or inconsistent attachment, on the other hand, can wire circuits for anxiety, hypervigilance, or withdrawal. This does not mean children are doomed. It means they will need extra support and consistent care later to rebuild trust. Serve and return. The brain's dialogue. One of the simplest but most powerful ways to build the brain is through what scientists call serve and return interactions. A baby coos and the caregiver smiles and responds with a word. A toddler points and the parents name the object. A preschooler asks a question and the teacher answers with patience. Each back and forth is like rarely in tennis. The child serves, the caregiver returns. With every exchange, brain circuits for communication, attention, and trust grow stronger. When these interactions are absent, children's brains miss vital stimulation, just as muscle weaken without exercise, neural circuits fade without responsive interaction. Language as nutrition for the brain. Language is often described as brain food. The number of words children hear in early years is one of the strongest predictors of academic success. Children from language-rich environments may hear millions more words by the time they enter school compared to children from less interactive homes. This word gap translates into differences in vocabulary, comprehension, and learning ability. Reading aloud is especially powerful. It introduces complex language beyond everyday speech. It sparks imagination and empathy. It strengthens bonds between child and caregiver. Even simple narrations describing what you're cooking, pointing out objects on a walk, provides brain fuel. The magic of stories. Stories do more than expand vocabulary. They shape values, empathy, and a sense of belonging. When adults read with expression, changing their voice, embodying characters, children become captivated. They don't just hear the words, they feel them. This emotional connection wires circuits for memory and imagination. Stories also give children a safe space to process big feelings. Through characters, they learn about courage, kindness, sadness, and resilience. Play as emotional practice. We often think of play as physical, but it's also emotional. Role play, pretend games, and group activities help children practice empathy, cooperation, and leadership. In group play, children learn to share, negotiate, and resolve conflict. In pretend play, they experiment with emotions being scared, being brave, being a helper. Each of these experiences strengthens circuits for social and emotional intelligence. Singing, music, and creativity. Singing and music are forms of emotional language. Group singing fosters a sense of unity and belonging. Dancing together synchronizes rhythms, aligning both bodies and emotions. Creativity, whether through drawing, building, or inventing stories, gives children tools to express themselves when words are not enough. These outlets protect mental health and build resilience. The role of stress and safety. The social environment also includes stress. Children who grow up in safe, predictable homes have brains wired for exploration and growth. Those who grow up in a chaotic, conflict-heavy homes may wire their brains for survival instead. This is why the toxic stress, unbuffered chronic stress without supportive relationships can damage brain development. Stress hormones like cortisol interfere with memory, attention, and emotional regulation. But when stress is balanced with love and support, it becomes tolerable. In fact, manageable challenges build resilience as long as children know they are not alone. Everyday social nutrition. The beauty of the emotional and social environment is that its building blocks are simple and free. Eye contact strengthens trust, laughter reduces stress hormones and releases bonding chemicals, listening with attention makes children feel valued. Naming emotions teaches children how to recognize and regulate their feelings. Predictable routines provide security and reduce anxiety. Everyday moments of presence are more powerful than occasional grand gestures. Social circles beyond parents. While parents and caregivers are central, or other relationships also shape the brain. Grandparents, teachers, siblings, and peers all contribute. Positive peer interactions build empathy, cooperation, and social problem solving. Teachers who provide warmth and consistency can buffer against stress at home. Even community support, neighbors, coaches, mentors adds protective layers. The saying, "it takes a village to raise a child," is not just a cultural idea, it's a neuroscientific truth. Why connection is the heart of development. At every stage, from infancy to adolescence, one truth stands firm. Children grow best when they feel seen, heard, and loved. Nutrition, sleep, and play provide the tools, but connections provide the meaning. When children feel safe and connected, their brains shift from survival mode to growth mode. And that shift makes all the difference. Looking ahead. In this part, we've seen that love, language, stories, play, and connections are not optional extras. They are the essence of healthy brain development. Relationships are the soil in which all other foundations grow. In part 9, we will bring everything together by looking at challenges and negative influences, stress, neglect, and screen time. We will also explore practical strategies for raising resilient, adaptable children in a world full of pressures. Part number 9. Challenges and long-term growth. We have seen how nutrition, sleep, play, and love provide the foundations for a healthy brain. But just as strong foundations can be built, they can also be weakened. Children's brains are vulnerable not only to what they receive, but also to what they lack. In today's world, many children grow up facing influences that put their development at risk. Stress, neglect, poor nutrition, and excessive screen time. Understanding these challenges helps us protect children and build resilience for the long run. Toxic stress. When stress becomes harmful. Stress is a natural part of life. Small amounts like learning a new skill or meeting new people can be healthy. They build resilience and problem-solving abilities. But toxic stress is different. It happens when stress is intense, prolonged, and unbuffed by supportive relationships. Examples include the domestic conflict, abuse, neglect, or extreme poverty. Toxic stress floods the brain with cortisol, which disrupts circuits for memory, attention, and emotional regulation. Over time, it can alter brain architecture, leading to long-term difficulties with learning and behavior. The most powerful buffer against stress is a stable, supportive relationship with a caring adult. Even in difficulties circumstances, one consistent, loving caregiver can make the difference between harm and resilience. The impact of neglect. Neglect is one of the most damaging experiences for a developing brain. While abuse creates stress through harmful actions, neglect creates harm through absence. Babies left without responsive care may fail to develop secure attachment. Lack of conversation delays language circuits. Lack of stimulation weakens cognitive and motor development. Neglect is especially harmful because it removes the very experiences the brain needs most: interaction, love, and attention. The challenge of screen time. Digital devices are now a normal part of childhood. While technology has benefits, excessive screen time can interfere with brain development. Screens before bedtime reduce sleep quality by suppressing melatonin. Fast-paced digital content shortens attention spans. Social media exposes children to age-inappropriate fears and anxieties. Excessive time on screens replaces physical play, language interactions, and outdoor explorations. Studies show that children who spend too much time on screens may have smaller vocabularies, weaker social skills, and reduced focus. This doesn't mean screens must be eliminated entirely. The key is balance. Screen time should never replace the essentials: sleep, play, movement, and face to face connection. Recognizing warning signs. Parenting and caregivers often ask, how do I know if my child brain is developing well? While every child follows their own pace, there are red flags worth noting. By 12 months, no babbling or response to name. By second year, very few words or no two-word phrases. By preschool, little interest in play or difficulty interacting with others. Ongoing difficulty with focus, motor skills, or emotional regulation. Nothing delays early allows for interventions that can make a profound difference. Speech therapists, child development specialists can help children catch up when support is provided in time. Building resilience for the long term. Even with challenges, children are remarkably resilient. The secret is not to remove all stress, but to provide the support that helps them cope. Ways to build resilience include strong relationships, at least one consistent caring adult, predictable routines, a sense of safety in daily life, opportunities for mastery, letting children succeed at age-appropriate challenges, time for play and creativity, building coping skills to imagination, modeling calm behavior. Children learn regulation by watching adults. These strategies teach children that challenges can be managed and that setbacks are part of growth. Raising resilient minds in a modern world. Modern life brings unique pressures, fast-paced schedules, digital distractions, and social stress. But the principles of healthy brains development remain the same. Nutrition provides the raw materials, sleep resets and repairs, movement and play stimulate growth, love and language shape resilience, protection from harm keeps circuits strong. When these elements come together, children are equipped not only to succeed in school, but also to thrive as adaptable, compassionate adults. The role of communities and policy. It is important to remember that parents cannot carry the burden alone. Communities, schools, and policies play a critical role. Access to affordable, healthy food supports nutrition. Safe neighborhoods encourage outdoor play. Quality child care and education provide language and social stimulation. Mental health resources support families under stress. Investing in children's development is not just personal, it is societal. Economists have shown that every dollar spent on early childhood programs saves multiple dollars later by reducing costs in healthcare, education, and social services. Why presence matters more than perfection. In the end, children do not need perfect parents. They need present parents. What shapes the brain most is not flawless routines, organic food every day, or the absence of all stress. It is the consistent presence of caring adults who provide love, structure, and attention. Children remember connections more than correction. They remember laughter, bedtime stories, and the feeling of being safe. The moments become part of the brain's architecture carried forward into adulthood. Conclusion: Building for life. We began this course by asking how to secure healthy brain development. The answer is now clear. It is not one thing, but the combination of many small things done with care. Nutrition, sleep, movement, play, love, language, routines, and protection from harm, they all come together to build the architecture of mind. And while childhood is the most sensitive period, the brain's capacity to adapt means it is never too late. Every positive experience at any age has the power to strengthen circuits. The challenge for us as parents, caregivers, teachers, and communities is to provide these experiences consistently in both ordinary and extraordinary ways. Because in the end, the most powerful message we can send to children is this: you are seen, you are safe, you are loved, and your brain is built to grow strong. That is the miracle of child brain development, and it is the responsibility and privilege of all of us to nurture it.